Good afternoon, I'm Darren Danielson, joining you for a special report today.
And I'm Bailey Warfield. We are interrupting the lift today to bring you the latest on wildfires burning thousands of acres and destroying dozens of structures.
Yeah, the largest is the Camp House fire. It started on Sunday and has now burned nearly 12,000 acres. The fire growing by more than 10,000 acres with yesterday's high winds and tinderbox conditions. At least 50 homes and cabins have been evacuated, although that number is growing by the hour. Federal, state, and local teams are collaborating on the response. They now have 32 engines, at least 6 dozers, and approximately 80 personnel just on the Camp House fire. Plus, air resources continue to drop water and retardant on that fire. Earlier today, Incident Commander Ryan Williams described fighting the fire like playing whack-a-mole.
Primarily, the biggest issue we were experiencing was spot fires. There's a heavy dead component due to bugworm, so there's a lot of receptive fuels everywhere. Couple that with the challenging winds. As you feel right here today, the lake effect has been influencing the fire, causing issues for firefighters with containment as they do their best to suppress the fire and, again, prioritize point protection.
Authorities telling WDIO News today that they are focused on protecting specific points of public infrastructure and private property. In the next 24 to 48 hours, their goal, they say, is to establish and expand containment lines.
We're really optimistic of the moisture coming this week. Ideally, we get some pretty good precipitation to bring some relief. I don't know if it'll put the fire out, but it'll definitely get the first responders opportunity to make really good progress on this fire.
And we are also continuing to track the latest with evacuations. Some have been asked to leave in a few communities near these fires. The red zone here is who needs to get out. The St. Louis County Sheriff's Office provides this interactive map with the latest warnings. Law enforcement wants the public to be aware that should an evacuation order be given in your community, you will receive an emergency alert on your phone. St. Louis County Sheriff Gordon Ramsey added the best advice is to just avoid the areas around these fires. These areas are under a pre-evacuation notice from Lake County, Cane Lake, Marble Lake, and Thomas Lake. You don't need to go anywhere yet, but you should be ready to head out if a sheriff's deputy contacts you. And if you do need to leave home, St. Louis County and the Red Cross set up an evacuation center at the Friedenberg Community Center. That is on Fish Lake Road. And the winds just keep whipping the Jenkins Creek fire. Depending on the minute, smoke would billow black and then white and gray. Our team stopped at the Skybo Vista overlook again, where you could see miles and miles of smoke. Mark Broughton is visiting from South Dakota, although he grew up in Aurora. He told us that last night was even more dramatic when you could see the glowing flames in the dark.
It is what it is, and it's just lucky there's not a lot of homes in the area. It's more recreational places, but it's still a bad thing.
The county says just a few people live in Skybo and all were contacted and got out safely. Road closures started this afternoon as well. Crews put out signs at Skybo Lookout and Townline Road around 1:30 this afternoon. Starting tomorrow, Jenkins Creek will be under the Complex Incident Management Team, which will also take over the Camp House fire.
Weather conditions playing a pivotal role in fighting these fires. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Justin Lyles for the latest on that. Justin?
Yeah, and you can see both of these two main fires where you're looking at this smoke plume continuing from these areas to the north, but we're starting to see it fluctuate a little bit. What I mean by that is things are going to begin to turn more toward the west as we head through the evening hours, as we start to see winds coming in off of Lake Superior. Now, we have 3 of the primary ingredients well in place. We have high temperatures well above average, record highs being set or close to that mark once again. So not only are we looking at hot conditions, drying things out, we're also looking at low humidity. Now, the humidity levels have decreased here in the last hour or two. And the threshold typically, just to make things simple, is if you get to that 30% range and lower than that, that's when you're looking at ideal conditions for wildfires if they do start to spread rather quickly. And as we head through the evening and over through the rest of the into the overnight hours, beg your pardon, you're going to see that even through the early this evening, we're looking at relative humidities being a bit on the higher side, are starting to climb a little bit and improve. So tonight, the best opportunity to really fight these fires will be tonight with higher humidity levels and wind speeds that'll be decreasing around the region too. So you can see right now about a 5 to 15 mile per hour wind, but you work your way further north and you start to get in that 10 mile per hour range. Again, winds will be increasing through the early evening hours, but we are watching some of the cameras from here across the region, and you can see this is in Sheridan Avenue. I'm going to go ahead a little bit farther in Ely, and you can see in the background how thick the smoke is starting to appear. Now, all of this is looking east, and it is going to be sliding westward. So within the next hour and a half in Ely, you're expecting to see some extremely thick fog or thick smoke developing in this area, which is going to cause some issues as far as those of you who may have some difficulties breathing. That's going to be the case for many areas up north as we head through the overnight hours and into tomorrow. Now, winds die down overnight, as I mentioned, into tomorrow afternoon. They could increase a little bit. Tomorrow is a bit of a day where we could see some additional burning going on, but there is some rain in the forecast. It just so happens that it's not going to be a significant amount of rain, but it is mostly going to be confined to maybe knocking some of this down a little bit. But we're going to go over this graphic a little bit more in detail coming up.
Any little bit helps. Thanks, Justin.
And we haven't yet talked about the Mungershaw fire. While the smallest, it is also 0% contained. It's burning 1,400 acres in the Canyon area east of Highway 53. Firefighters are working on the ground and from the air. Minnesota DNR staff are managing this one.
Now, we report on wildfires out west, of course, quite a bit, but these are happening right here. And many of us know people who are personally dealing with the destruction and fear of destruction.
And it's not just a local problem. State officials from the governor's office to the DNR to the National Guard are also involved. We will hear from them after this break. An air quality alert has been extended through Wednesday. Southerly winds are moving wildfire smoke into northern St. Louis and Lake counties. Hibbing and Ely should expect to feel it. People in sensitive groups are encouraged to take it easy while you're outside if you do have to go out. People with asthma should keep an inhaler nearby. Children, older adults, and pregnant women are considered sensitive groups. If you experience any severe symptoms, chest pain, trouble breathing, or fear that you may be experiencing a heart attack or stroke, you should call 911. As crews continue to battle these fires, state and federal officials are monitoring and offering help.
Right. This afternoon, Governor Tim Wallace and other officials briefed us about what they are doing. As we've told you, the governor emphasized the 3 big wildfires are still 0% contained. He and others stressed that the first priority is the safety of firefighters and those in the evacuation areas.
These are dangerous fires that are still moving, still threatening. I would make the case, and again, the plea for your own safety, if folks come along and ask for an evacuation. I know these are difficult decisions to make. We would ask that you please do so. It's not only for your own safety, it's for the firefighters' safety, because protecting these buildings and life puts them at risk. And
many agencies are coordinating in to bring in more personnel and equipment, but officials don't expect these operations to wrap up anytime soon.
While this incident is active and the firefight is ongoing, we are here for the long haul. Recovery is going to be vitally important for the communities that are being impacted. So we will be here in the days and weeks and months to come to help this area recover once the flames are extinguished.
Governor Walz said he has also been in contact with FEMA and the White House should federal resources be needed.
Reporter Liam Fellman has spent the day gathering what he can from the closest communities to these fires. He's live now, and Liam, what can you tell us?
Well, I'm at Seagram's Harbor right now in Two Harbors. It's about 25 miles away from the Camp House fire itself. But over the trees behind me, it's been coming and going. It looks like clouds over the top there, but every few minutes a billow emerges, and that's the plume of the Camp House fire coming over the trees. It may look like clouds, but again, that is smoke. And now it's been over 48 hours since this fire began, scorching nearly 12,000 acres. Over 100 homes we're hearing is the estimate on how many have been evacuated. And I spoke with a couple people who've been displaced since Sunday afternoon, which is when the fire began. One of the men was in a wheelchair and he was caring for 2 older dogs, and he says he built his home from the ground up and has no clue if it's still standing. He also said to me that at his age, it would be impossible for him to financially start all over again, given he is on a fixed income. Now, what stood out to me when I was at Hugo's bar in Brimson earlier was the way everyone was picking each other up during a moment like this. Every 5 minutes, it seemed like another 2 cases of water, another pack of Gatorade was being dropped off, or first responders were grabbing a free meal from the food truck they had staged there. And according to people who know the importance of Hugo's bar to the area, the community says it means a lot to have it be a beacon at a time like this.
Absolutely, and it's good to hear those personal stories to get a sense of how this really is affecting our community. Thanks, Liam. We'll check in with you at 5.
Seeing those donations coming into Hugo's like that, we know that many of you at home want to know if there's anything that you can do to help.
But before you jump into action, the agency's coordinating resources have a message for you. Details coming up. Stay close.
Red flag warnings remain in effect for 65 Minnesota counties and 4 northern Wisconsin counties. That fire risk is what this is all about. It's primarily centered right here in the north. If you are just joining our half-hour special report here live from the WDIO studios, we want you to know high winds are fanning the flames of 3 wildfires in northeast Minnesota right now. They are coupled with low humidity, and it is making things difficult for firefighters. You can do your part, though, by paying attention to this. During this red flag warning, do not burn anything. Campfires are strongly discouraged right now. Just one tiny spark can ignite dry vegetation, so keep that in mind when smoking, grilling, or using off-road vehicles, too.
Getting above these fires is key to putting them out. Here's the view from helicopter pilot Earl Waters. He's in a CH-47 named Boomer. This video shows flames engulfing a structure. One thing we should also remind everyone of, authorities say if drones are detected anywhere near the fire, all air operations will immediately stop. So do not fly anywhere near these fires and help keep all our first responders safe.
Yeah, those plumes of smoke just rising across the Northland today, Justin. Anything more on that?
Yeah, we are actually seeing that right now. This is Minnesota 1 west of Ely. Now you can look, this is actually looking toward the town of Ely right now. And look at the horizon here. You can see just how thick the smoke is coming. Now most of this smoke has been moving to the north and east, but now we're seeing a bit of a wind shift where things are starting to become a little more on the darker side in Ely. Almost kind of looks like a thunderstorm is coming, just how dark the skies have become due to that wildfire smoke. Certainly smelling it out there. There are going to be some health concerns, asthma, if you have heart disease, young children, adults. You know, you might want to be wearing a mask if you're outside. Close the windows tonight if you can, because again, I know it's pretty hot outside. If there's ways for you to cool down with keeping those windows shut, you may want to do so. So when you look at the smoke tracker and what we're going to be dealing with, again, still watching the 3 main ones that we have here now. One thing to keep in mind too, Twin Ports, we're not really smelling anything as of yet. However, later on this evening, there's also a fire in eastern part of Pine County that's beginning to fire up a little bit more. And that smoke might be smelt here across Carleton County and the Twin Ports area later on this evening. However, the thicker stuff stays to the north. This kind of looks like a hole in the data, but it's not. It's all filled in with heavy smoke. So you can see from Hoyt Lakes, Tower, Ely, everything in between, all the way down to Brimson, and even with this Mungershaw wildfire, you can see most of Cotton up Highway 53 to Virginia seeing some activity as well. So air quality, as we mentioned, until 4 p.m., and we're also under another fire weather watch for tomorrow because of the similar conditions before we start to see some rain showers roll in and potentially some severe weather on Thursday. We're going to talk more about this, of course, coming up later in the show and at 5.
All right, Justin, thanks so much. You know, as WDIO crews have been out in the field, as we have been continuing to monitor these fires, we've been hearing a lot from officials, naturally, but also locals on the ground. One man from Hoyt Lakes told us he's ready to leave in a hurry if he has to.
Don't know what to feel, you know. I got my dog. I have my dad. He's disabled, so concerned about him. So get him out of there as fast as can.
As a reminder for those in any of the impacted areas tonight, evacuation orders will be given by officials if necessary, so you should be ready to move out quickly if you have to.
Still ahead on this special report, Renee Pasal will join us in studio to talk about what it was like to have eyes on the Jenkins Creek fire as it grew today. Well, we know many of you want to support the firefighters with donations of food and water. However, they are asking you to hold off because they need to transition to a new incident management team tomorrow.
Right. Instead, they recommend giving money to one of these organizations, the Wildfire Federation or the Red Cross. And we'll keep you posted if that changes.
And Renee, I know that you have been out talking with Northlanders while covering this, including one guy who really did want to help.
Yeah, so the Iron Angel taxi guy, he is collecting donations right now, and I did send him that message, like, you know, they're not quite sure what to do with these yet because they're doing the change of command there. But, you know, people are really wanting to do something because when you see smoke like that, and it grew so quickly, even, you know, we were only up there for like an hour. You know, people have been up there for over a day now, but it would go from one edge of a tree line to the next in a half an hour. Even while we were doing that special report, the black plumes would switch. Carl would think he had a shot, and then he'd have to move the camera because it already had moved in just a few minutes. So thankfully, a lot of that area is very kind of remote.
Sure.
Skybo itself, only a handful of people, they were able to make contact with those folks and make sure they were out of cabins and out of a couple of permanent residences. That is it. So thankfully, everyone was able to get out safely, and they're not as concerned about that area as they are about Camp House.
Okay. It is really amazing to see this from that overlook because obviously we're not going to put up drones or anything like that because they're asking everyone not to do that. So to have this view, to have this vantage point and be able to see this fire really moving is incredible.
And you know, we were one side the other day, and you can even see some of the flames in the corner there. I mean, it just changed every minute. So, and when we were actually on the other side of that overlook and talking about the fires, it could have been the camp house because there's so many plumes of smoke. I'm like, oh, I don't really know if this is the Jenkins Creek, but now they're going to be calling it the Brimson Complex, so it'll all be kind of one problem they're going to address. So
only about 5 miles, it sounded like, between the two of them, but they are considered two separate incidents.
Right.
From afar, it looks like one plume of smoke, but it is just so widespread that it's misleading.
That is true.
Yeah, Sabrina Ullman is also part of our team coverage today. She's reporting live for us. Sabrina, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Darren, I just got to the spot that Liam's at now, where you can see every now and again the plume of smoke from the Camp House fire behind where I'm at. I was at the Munger Creek fire earlier, as close as I could get. They have the roads blocked out pretty far away. So one side the road's blocked out, you can't even see the plume. The other side's a little closer. And I talked to some people who had to evacuate, then they were allowed to get their stuff, and then they had to leave again. And I mean, it's people's homes that are at risk of fire. And someone from the Sheriff's Department did mention that the reason why they had these road closures so far out from the fire was because they're worried about it rapidly spreading, as we're still seeing these dry conditions persist. It's still warm, it's on and off windiness, and we're not getting rain till later this week, and so that's where we are seeing those fires continue to grow. As every time we have a newscast, there's new numbers on those fires. So that's the Mungershaw fire, that is separate from the Brimson fire and the Jenkins Creek that, like Renee said, are now considered Brimson Complex combined. So 3 different fires in our area that are just continuing to grow as we have these conditions. Winds picking up right now, and then also with that wind, of course, that's still blowing wildfire smoke around. I didn't even get that close to the Mungershaw fire, and I had to use my inhaler because that smoke is blowing around. And so people with COPD, asthma, other issues like that in those sensitive groups, there have been air quality alerts issued. There could be more, as well as we continue to see that smoke spread in addition to the wildfires still spreading and of course impacting people's homes and everything else. Darren.
Yeah, thanks for that live report, Sabrina. Yeah, Sabrina mentioned the changes, know, every time we come on with a new broadcast, there's new information. That's true when we're not broadcasting too. So we want to remind you that WDIO.com is your place to go for real-time information. We're keeping you updated there as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for this wildfire special report instead of the lift today. And the biggest thank you to the firefighters out there working around the clock. The 5 is 2 minutes away.